So most of you know when you hire a real estate agent to represent you, they have to, by law, put your best interests ahead of their own. And that's basically, letting them negotiate for you and letting them represent you. What most people don't realize is that there is a time before you sign a contract with an agent and a brokerage that you are unrepresented and you are actually representing yourself and negotiating for yourself. And there are points in contracts that you sign with a brokerage that are negotiating points that you might not even be aware of. That most times a real estate agent is going to show up to your contract signing appointment with their contracts already filled out. Convenient, isn't it? So I just wanted to point out some negotiating points that you might not be aware of. And when you're negotiating against or with an expert negotiator, because hopefully your agent that you're hiring to represent you is an expert negotiator, you just need maybe a few more tools in your toolbox wouldn't hurt. So everybody knows, and this is probably what most people think about is, well, when you list your house, there is an amount of money that you're paying the agent and the agency, and that's negotiable. And it absolutely is. And but that is just one small little point that you can negotiate on. So I'll talk about listings first, and then I'll talk about negotiating from a buyer perspective. So obviously when you're signing a listing agreement, one of the first things that is a negotiating point is the commission that you are paying to the brokerage. Another point in a listing contract is the term. Some agents have specific terms that they like to do. I know I do, but that's a negotiable. Those are blanks that can be filled in and changed. There's also a carryover date. I love this little clause in the contract, and basically it says that if I am representing you, showing your house, let's say I provide some information to a buyer during that time, your house expires or you pull it from the market, and you wind up within a certain period selling that house to a buyer that I provided information to, I'm still owed commission, or the brokerage is still owed commission. So that is a date that we put in here, and then that is also a negotiating point. Furthermore, in the listing agreement, some things that you can think about are if you have buyers that you've already talked to. What if your cousin was interested in the house and you talked to your cousin already about it? If your agent winds up putting a deal together with your cousin, are you going to try to negotiate a lower amount that you're going to give the agent? Something to think about. What about if your agent brings their own buyer to the transaction, or there is no other agent? We have an unrepresented buyer. Should there be a variable commission? Those are things that aren't listed out on the listing agreement that you can certainly put in there. We've got a nice little blank space called other conditions, and that's what we put in there. So something to think about. Now, as a buyer, you have a lot of things you can negotiate on. First of all, I think the most important thing is the areas. So each agreement specifically states what areas that particular agent is going to represent you in. And I mean, even I primarily work in southern Maine, southern New Hampshire. So I typically do like the Berwicks or whatever towns it is. But you may want to hire a different agent to represent you in Kittery than representing you in Portland. An expert in all areas. So you can certainly hire an agent for each different area that you want to look in, and you can get the area expert in each location. You can also hire an agent just for that one property. So if you are going and seeing one property, sorry, I have a little bit of a cold, and want to write an offer on that one, you might not want to be represented by that agent for eternity. So you can just put in that property address. On the buyer representation agreement, there is a retainer fee area, and that's obviously negotiable. Then you've got some negotiating points for listed property or unlisted property. And so for listed property, the seller typically will pay their agent a certain amount of money, and that agent has an agreement with MLS to cooperate with other agents, and so they will put in MLS, I will pay another agent this much money. But that does not restrict buyer agents from requesting more money directly from their buyers, and that can be a dollar amount or that can be a percentage. And those are both absolutely negotiable. Then there's unlisted property. So this is your for sale by owner, or if you happen to go out and you see a lot of land and you wind up calling the owner of it, which you shouldn't because you're under agreement with an agent, but let's say you do because it happens, and you negotiate something. If it's unlisted, that agent still gets paid, and that goes on here as well as a dollar amount or a percentage. We have that same carryover date clause in here. So if an agent shows you a property and you wind up going back without that agent and putting something under agreement later on, after your contract is expired, that agent is still owed money. That date is negotiable. And then for buyer agency, you can also negotiate if it's a dual agency situation. So if your agent that's representing you as a buyer shows you one of their listings, and let's say they wrote in a little bit more commission that they should receive on a listing, then you could say, hey, if it's your own listing, then we're not going to pay you any extra. So those are some negotiating points when you're negotiating against, I hate saying against actually, when you're negotiating with real estate agents. Negotiations should be working together to get the best deal for both parties, not adversarial. I need to change the way I say that. So it's negotiating with, not against. If you guys have any questions about negotiating, if you've got questions about the value of your home, please feel free to reach out to me. All of my contact information is below. Have a great day.